Hello again, I'm Robert Fithen. So nice to have you back here with me in 1983. This is where I've been for a while, doing the deep dive into a lot of albums from 1983, rating them and reviewing them in chronological order going by release date. Wow, can you believe it? We're already at the nearing the end of July. On July 27th, 1983, the debut from this young lady was released. Her name is Madonna. The album's called Madonna, and wow, did this launch a huge career. She was telling Dick Clark on American Bandstand that she was going to take over the world, and well, she certainly did, at least the world of pop music. Wow, this is the beginning right here, and her career went on and on and on. She had all kinds of hits, but it all starts right here. And I remember seeing her on Friday Night Videos, some of the other video shows that were on, and she was always kind of a standout. You know, she kind of was like a few tiers above some of the other just, you know, one-hit wonder, three-hit wonder, you know, pop women out at the time. Very controversial sometimes, even early on, you know. I don't really know why she was considered to be provocative with early stuff like this. It didn't seem like she was really doing too much, but people were, oh my, I can't believe Madonna did that. Oh, wow, she's crazy. Oh, she's slutty. Oh, I'm clutching my pearls. It's like she's dancing around. I don't know. Oh no, she's got fingerless gloves. Well, I guess that's a little provocative for 1983. Choking yourself with a chain. Okay, she was a little provocative, but early on. So yeah, and she had the bare midriff. Oh no, she's showing her navel. What next? What hole is she gonna show next? When will it stop? This starts with Lucky Star. Huge hit, obviously. You must be my lucky star. She doesn't sound like that. Borderline was like the... Well, first of all, I just want to say, this album, even though it is a pop album, it does have a bit of diversity in it, which I always like. Like, Lucky Star is the silly, upbeat pop song where you're dancing around and your little 5-year-old sister... I don't have a 5-year-old sister or any younger. My sisters are all older. But if I did had, she'd be dancing around a Lucky Star. Borderline is more of the mature kind of adult contemporary song. It's a little more, laid back, a little more subdued. Burning Up is almost like the rock song, you know, with the guitar, and she's grittier and sexier. Do you want to see me down on my knees? I'm bending over backwards now, would you please? I'm not the others, I'll do anything. I'm not the same, I have no shame, I'm on fire. There's two versions of Burning Up, by the way. That makes there be two versions of this album. It originally started off a longer song that was more keyboard-oriented, and then this was immediately remixed and reissued with a shorter version that concentrated more on the guitar. So usually you will find the guitar version, the later version of this. I think the original versions of this with the longer, more synthy Burning Up were only around for like a couple of months. And then after that, you have an album track called I Know It, which is pretty cool. I think it could have been a single. I think any song on here. Think of Me's not as strong, but I think any other song on here could have been a single, and it only has 8 songs on it, and pretty much 6 of them were singles. So I Know It could have been the 7th. Very catchy, catchy melody, catchy lyrics. I know you're gonna take your love and run. Holiday. Very celebratory. I mean, just that goes on. A party starts. This sort of we need to take the pressure off, and we just need to dance and have a holiday or whatever. That became more of like a club song. Sounds like a disco type era song, and it became an anthem. You know, the rest of the songs on here become huge hits. That one's the anthem. Think of Me is okay. Like I said, that's kind of the skippable one if you're going to skip something. And then Physical Attraction. That was more of an early song for her before she broke big. That would play in the New York clubs from what I understand. It's okay. And then Everybody is this really techno-y kind of early. It sounds like it's from more of like the late 70s. It's got this quirky kind of electronic sound to it. And again, like Physical Attraction, I think it's an early song for her that would be played in clubs in New York when she's first breaking through and like 12-inch single type stuff. So it's all on here, and it's all great. And I'm going to give this 5 stars. Oh, where'd you go? Bye. Didn't even say goodbye. Yeah, 5 stars for Madonna's debut. I'm not a huge Madonna fan overall, but I definitely appreciate what she did. I like a lot of her music. I don't like all of it, but this is my favorite Madonna album, the very first one. It has a lot of nostalgia for me as far as being an excellent example of early 80s pop. A lot of nostalgia because I had the tape of this, and I got the tape when my family went to visit my mom's family, who live in the very northern part of Michigan, and then we checked out the Upper Peninsula of Michigan where she grew up. And since, hey, we're going to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, we might as well go to Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Canada. And so I was in Canada when in the 80s. We went twice, and I just thought I was so worldly because I had been to Canada, the very southern part of Canada. I mean, we were barely in Canada, but hey, I couldn't wait to go back to school after the summer, tell everybody I'd been to Canada, like I'd been to, Japan or something. I'm going to start saying petrol because I've been to Canada. I'm going to start referring to things in kilometers because I've been to Canada. I'm so cool. Anyway, I got the Madonna tape when I was in Canada, and I did think this was cool because I noticed right away that this, even it's Warner Brothers Sire, but it doesn't look like the American version. It has a little thing on here where it says Super Cassette. I'm not really sure what that means, but I saw that a lot of Canadian Warners had that on there. It has a kind of a great thing there with the WEA logo on it. American ones don't have that, and this one didn't just have the J card, it had the full back, which at the time, cassettes in the United States did not have. This would not come until more like the mid-80s, like 86, 87, they started putting these on here with the clear back here. The stuff from 83 had the black shell and then just the J card. So I had never seen a professional tape like, usually if it had this, it was like a blank tape. So that blew my mind, that it had a clear case and a full backing on here, which I'd never seen before. And then the cassette itself has a black shell, which all the ones in the United States at the time had like a cream colored or white shell, especially the Warner Brothers ones. And then around 85 is when they started doing the clear ones. But black one, it was like, this is totally different. I got to get a cassette. And so I got this one. Look what I did. I put this through a typewriter and put the song titles on there with the running times. That is next level for, I think I was 11 or 12 when I got this. Next level right there. That's a geek right there is what that is. That's exactly what I was, a complete music geek. I mean, even knowing as a young person at the time that this was a different kind of, different looking cassette than the one in the United States, but I still have this, and that's one of the other reasons why I love the Madonna debut. But other than that, it's a terrific, like I said, a terrific pop album from 1983. 5 stars! Wait, that's 10. 5 stars for Madonna's debut. There's a band from Los Angeles called 45 Grave, and in 1983 they released their debut album, the only one that they put out in the 80s, called Sleep in Safety, which is a strange name for an album for a band like this. 45 Grave is basically, kind of an early version of some kind of goth new wave kind of thing going on. It's pretty interesting stuff. It's first of all, the only song that I ever knew from 45 Grave before I heard the whole album was called Party Time. And it is featured on the Return of the Living Dead soundtrack from 1985. Now, the version that's on here is called the zombie version, and it's different. It's a little more heavy metal-esque, a little more hard rock. Do you want a party? It's party time! It's that one. Which I must remember from hearing it in the trailer all the time, because I've only seen this movie like a couple of times back in the 80s, but that song was so familiar when I first got that record. I'm like, I know this song, and so sure enough, it's 45 Grave. Another version of it on here, obviously an earlier version, not quite as loud and aggressive, more of like a popish, punkish kind of thing going on. So these guys, they're definitely in that lane, new wave, but with a dark kind of sinister twist. The very first song called Insurance from God. The whole album starts off with this piece of a soundbite from, I guess, an insurance record showing you how to, sell insurance. It's a little 5-second thing. And then you get this big chamber organ going, and you're thinking, wow, we're in for something spectacularly scary here, because it sounds like some old horror movie type of thing. And then the band kicks in, and it becomes this, like I said, sort of new wave, sort of goth, fun type of thing with Insurance from God. After that is the song Evil. Delightful as well. You were really in a groove here, and I'm thinking this is going to be really, really nice, really interesting. I love this sound so far. But then the album starts to gradually just sort of settle down, I think is the best way to describe it. Just kind of, it gets locked into that, and then it stays there. A little bit more pop-oriented as the album goes on. They even go into a little bit of a surf, surf new wave kind of groove there with a little minute-long instrumental called Surf Bat. Dream Hits is more of a poppier kind of song that happens about halfway through the album. And side 2 actually starts off with a really cool one. The song is called 45 Grave, so named after the band. And that ends with a surprisingly melodic, like almost classic rock-sounding guitar riff that repeats. So there's nice moments on here, lively moments, but then you get more kind of not so much fun stuff, just kind of basic, kind of droning stuff like Slice of Life that goes on for too long. Violent World is okay, it's not the same as the Misfits song. A lot of okay kind of stuff, more towards the middle, more towards the very end of the album. But overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. I had a really promising start, but I think either I just got kind of used to it, kind of over it like halfway through or so, or it actually, like I said, began to kind of die down, settle down a little bit, and you're like, all right, this is okay. This band was around for a long time. They only put out 2 albums, one in '83 and then one way after that, 2012. But they apparently always put on a lot of shows, mostly in the the LA area. They're kind of known for a band. You go have some drinks and go catch the show, and they put on a great show. They've had all kinds of different members coming and going, so lineups constantly changing. But overall, a decently fun album, just not anything that's like, oh wow, you got to hear this, But you definitely need to hear Party Time, the zombie version that's on the Return of the Living Dead soundtrack. That would be the track to check out from 45 Grave. Handful of albums were released on July 29th, 1983, and this is one of them, the debut from the band Big Country called The Crossing. These guys from Fife, Scotland. And they definitely have the sound of like some Scottish folk stuff going on here. A lot of the songs sound like either you're in the pub with the pint and you're going back and forth like this with your friends, or you're marching along. They have that kind of rhythm to them. They have that kind of, even if they're not playing, bagpipes or something like that, the guitar sound and just the way that they're playing and the melodies and whatever sound like they very well could be on bagpipes or something. So a terrific sound for these guys. This album produced by Steve Lillywhite, who also did a lot of the early U2 stuff. So they kind of have that sound as well, a little bit of Irish in with the Scottish. And I just remember Friday Night Videos always had, like every other week, would play In a Big Country, the big first single off of this. Definitely their biggest hit in the U.S. anyway. I'm not sure how popular they are in other parts of the world. But yeah, In a Big Country is mostly what people know the band Big Country from. In the video where they're on the, I don't remember if they're 3-wheelers or 4-wheelers. I don't remember how many wheels, but they're on, the thing that they're going around trying to find the little box that has the Big Country emblem on it, and it just looked like this little spy movie type of thing out in the fields or whatever. So very interesting video. Back when music videos used to be interesting and not just a bunch of preening and posing and rock star moves and whatever that came later. But this album has a lot beyond that. Great story songs like Chance and The Storm, little scenes set up that got, of course, the love songs, Love Gone Wrong, but the music on here is terrific. It does sound a little similar in a lot of it, with the music that I was describing, but it is a nice sound, and this is a very interesting sounding album. Fields of Fire was another single off of this. Didn't do quite as well as In a Big Country, but that was the second single off of here. Great long song, 7-minute song called Paraman to wrap this up. So it is a lengthier album. They definitely give you their money's worth on this record. Close Action is another great one as well. So they're pretty much all really good. 1,000 Stars, won't change my luck. So having some bad luck, The luck of the Scottish, as they don't say. I don't think they. I think it's the luck of the Irish. But anyway, Big Country, The Crossing. I always thought these guys would be bigger. You know, like I said, I was 10 years old in '83, and I'm seeing all these exciting new bands on videos, and they're all breaking out, and you don't know who's going to be, you know, who's going to be Cyndi Lauper, who's going to be Madonna, who's going to be Big Country, you know, who's going to have 2 hits, who's going to have 48 hits. It's all new, it's all exciting, and these guys only had a couple, unfortunately. I think they had another one in, I want to say right around 1986. It was like 2 or 3 years later, called Look Away. I still remember that one. They had one in the 90s that was on rock radio a little bit. I think it was on a TV show or something called The One I Love. It's not the same as the REM song. So they had a smattering of radio play with some other songs here and there, one about every 3 or 4 years. But In a Big Country is the big song. And unfortunately, I would give this 5 stars. But unfortunately, the In a Big Country on here is some 80s remix version, and I think it's that way on all of these albums, no matter what country these are from. I think all of them have the 4 minutes and 42 seconds, something like that, version of the In a Big Country. That's a remix. That's got all this 80s, like Arthur Baker type remix where, you know, it breaks down in the middle and it goes to like a drum thing, and then it's the shout, 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 you know, that kind of thing. I think it starts off with the part where he's like, you know, in the middle of a verse where he's talking about, come on, screaming, come on, screaming, come on, screaming, you know, taking something and looping it. That's not the original version. The original version is the one that's on the single that came out, and then they came out with the album and put this, like I said, Arthur Baker 80s style bullshit remix on there to make it longer and to spread it out. And I just wish they would have put the real version of In a Big Country. That's the version that's on the video. That's the version that was on the radio. That's the version on the 45. That's the real version. Not this chopped up, looped, bullshit 80s remix version that's song 1 of the album. So it's really annoying that they did that. And then what's even more annoying is they refer to this now as the album version, and then refer to the real version that's on the 45, the way it was recorded, as the single edit or the radio edit. It is not an edit. That's the way it was made. That's the way it was distributed. That's the video. There's nothing edited. This is just elongated with a remix. There's a big difference between an edit and something else that's elongated. That's not an album. Well, I guess it is an album version since it's on the album, but it's not the same. Anyway, not good, and it kicks off this album, and so I'm going to give this 4 stars. Maybe someday they will re-release this and just start it off with the real version of In a Big Country. Until then, you'll have to get it on like a greatest hits compilation or, you know, gnarly hits of the 80s or whatever they're calling it. Off to Germany we go now. Rheinland-Pfalz, Germany to be exact, for the metal band called Trance and their album called Power Transfusion. Look at that cover art. You know you're in for something great when you got a cover like that. And it is great. I've always been partial to German rock, whether it be the cosmic rock music or German metal. Love all of it, well, almost all of it. And I was not familiar with Trance, though, but I should have been, because these guys have apparently been around since the 70s. They put out about 10 albums over the years, and over the years, I mean the years. They started off in the 70s. Their first album came out in 1982. Power Transfusion is their second album. And then they've gone on, you know, various member changes, you know, people coming in, coming out. And so they've gone on throughout the 90s, throughout the 2000s, into the 2010s. I don't know if they've put out any albums in the 2020s. But so far, this is the only one that I'm familiar with. And I've heard it 4 times. And it's great stuff. Nice guitar sound, nice hard rock sound. They do have more of the metal sort of imagery and lyrics. And the very first song is called Heavy Metal Queen, and it's kind of got this kind of comic book, heavy metal comic book style about this heavy metal queen and, you know, all of her righteousness and what she's all about. So that's pretty cool. It just, things like that seem to be pulled off better by bands that are not American. They just, especially a band that is from a different language. They seem to be able to pull off the imagery of something like that, the fantasy of something like that, at least to my American ears. It sounds more passable than, you know, some guys from Ohio talking about a heavy metal queen from distant lands or whatever. So it totally works. Rockstar is after that, all about a rock star. And I love it because it's one of those metal tunes that is out before all the rules come in. So you got somebody just writing a cymbal the whole time. Just, you know, you don't get that after like 1985. You don't get cymbal writing. You don't get tambourines. You don't get, you know, any of that kind of stuff. It's like, nope, not metal. You got to conform to the rules. That's not metal. Metal is this. Got to stay in the lane here. So love that. The cymbal writing comes up again in a couple of other songs throughout, though. But that, I mean, it's just got this great groove to it. You know, almost like a dance beat to it, which, you know, again appears in a lot of metal stuff from the late '70s. You know, Judas Priest, Sin After Sin has a couple of tracks on there like that. Black Sabbath even do some of that. Yeah, like I said, once 84, 85 hits and we're all MTV'd up and we got the look and the sound and it's got to be this, then that kind of thing goes away. After that, it is a ballad that you can skip right over. Children of Illusion is what it's called. It's the low point on the album. It's the skippable track. The ballads are not really their wheelhouse. They don't need to do ballads. It's okay, but you know, compared to the rest of the album, it's the one where you depending on what you're playing this on. Glass House gets things back in order. You know, it's rocking out again. You know, don't throw the stones in the glass house. SLD after that, apparently standing for speed, leather, and danger. And that's one of the reasons I just love a lot of the hard rock and psychedelic rock from Germany. Not only my personal interest in the German language and Germany, you know, growing up and everything and taking years of German language in school, but also the quality is always there. You know, the band's always got the chops. I just love the sound. You get the sort of English version of, you know, hard rock, psychedelic, but you get this local German kind of seasoning on it, which makes for an excellent sound. Like I said, the bands are usually super talented, and it just makes for an incredible listen. You get that extra little German feel in there as well. And so you get the great music, and then the lyrics, it's usually, you know, if English is not the first language, then they're singing in English. You get phrasing and sort of words and whatever that aren't normally heard in American bands or bands from England or, you know, wherever, Canada, you know. So it's a little bit different. Sometimes it could be a little clunky, but it's just a very interesting listen a lot of times. And they certainly do a much, much better job singing in English than I would do if I tried to make some hard rock, heavy metal album in German. That is for sure. It'd probably end up sounding something like this. Ich bin der König des Metalls. Ich liebe laut zu sein. Ich würde dich meinen Stahlhandschuhe urfeigen. Urfeiger. Ich liebe das Wort Handschuhe. Yeah, so, you know, SLD, one of the opening lines is, you know, their brains aren't full of bullshit. Good to know. There's another song on here, Burn Your Lies, where, you know, you see a title like Burn Your Lies, it makes you think that they're going to be talking about somebody that's been lying to them, and I'm going to burn you, and I'm going to burn your lies, but really it's about burning your own lies and your own delusions and whatever, and living for real, and, you know, by my side we can live and have, you know, adventures, I guess, in reality, and, you know, so, and then after that, Storm and Thunder, real powerhouse rock song that wraps everything up. So an awesome listen, nearly all the way through. Like I said, skip the ballad and you're good to go. Fünf Sterne? Possibly, maybe. I'm gonna... 4 stars, I think, just to be sure. 4.5, really. Maybe 5, I don't know. Somewhere in there, I'm gonna give this... Give it a few more listens and I'll come back and I'll let you know. But yeah, it's great. That's all you need to know. If you like metal, if you like German heavy metal, if you like the Scorpions and Accept and all those great bands like that, and you kind of don't know who Trance is, maybe check this one out and crank this all the way up. Trance and Power Infusion. I think most of us, when we hear the name Tom Tom Club, we probably think of this album, the debut. This is super popular, has Genius of Love on it. That's been sampled many, many times and was a big song in its own right back in 1982. But we're in July of 1983 now, and did you even know that they had a follow-up album? Yeah, they did. It's called Close to the Bone, and I don't think a lot of people know about this one. It didn't even get released on CD until like the 2000s, I don't think. So this one just flew under the radar and was forgotten about, and everybody just kept playing the debut. But this has some decent songs on it. The first track is the best one, called Pleasure of Love. Some really nice percussion in that one, and I realize it's 1983 and it's the Tom Tom Club, so a lot of it's like drum machines and whatever, but they really do something a little more advanced with it than I think a lot of the other synth-type bands that were out at the time were doing, so they're a little bit of a few steps ahead there. Sounds like something that could be from the late 80s or early 90s even. So yeah, Pleasure of Love is definitely a standout. And then as the album goes on, I'm kind of getting less and less interested. The vocals have that Tom Tom Club, sound where they're kind of aloof and, just singing along like this. It's kind of, the music when you put it to it and the vocals, everything, kind of sounds like a mix between Khruangbin and Bananarama. Like if you melded those two together, and put a little bit of funk on it, then you would have the Tom Tom Club's second album. As the album goes on, there are other tracks that have standout moments. The Man with the Four-Way Hips and Bamboo Town come to mind with a few like, oh, that's a nice little touch on there. It's a nice little rhythm. That's a nice little drum beat. That's a nice, kind of synth melody there, whatever. Oh, the nice, clever lyrical phrase there or whatever, but nothing is really like bam, like you just want to hit the dance floor or you just want to start moving around. It's all very passable, and as I said, as the album goes on, it just gets kind of sillier, I guess, and less attractive, where you're just kind of like, okay, we're really getting kind of goofy right now. By the time the final track called Etza Baby comes on, you're like, okay, this is just downright goofy now. This is no longer kind of cool, kind of, dismissive, aloof kind of vocals, and everybody's just kind of like breezing along. Now we're getting just downright goofy by the time the final couple of tracks come on. So can't really recommend this high as the, Tom Tom Club's debut. That's pretty much the one you want. This one's okay. Close to the Bone from Tom Tom Club, I'll go ahead and give 3 stars because there are some, like I said, some moments on here, especially with the percussion, where it seems a little more advanced for the synth kind of stuff for 1983. Up next, Shrapnel Records is At It Again. Man, this is a great label for heavy metal hard rock in 1983. And in July, the album from The Rods, their third album, was released called In the Raw. You might not be familiar with The Rods. I kind of knew their name, wasn't really sure if they were a punk rock band, metal band, hard rock band, and certainly didn't know anything about Shrapnel Records until I started this. And man, that's been my biggest education of this entire series. I got to get me some Shrapnel Records. These guys, it's still in that nice hard rock vein that you can expect from Shrapnel. Not necessarily heavy metal, more just really meaty, thick, hard rock with the power chord guitars going on, a super tight band, great just riffing. None of the 80s flashes of guitars. There's no squawking, there's no neighing. There's, plenty of squealing, but that's fine. You can expect that. There's nothing wrong with that. But other than that, these guys definitely sound more like a nice hard 70s rock outfit. The one of the guys in the band, the bassist and vocalist, Gary Bardinaro, is actually the cousin of Ronnie James Dio and used to be in the band Elf. But not on this record, though. Different time for Elf. But yeah, he's Ronnie James Dio's cousin. He got a little bit of a leg up of the Shrapnel bands. But these guys, the band is super tight. And it's just the kind of thing you're listening to. You want to drive, you want to crank up. It's got that kind of feel to it where it's just like this strutting kind of rock thing. Pulsating, this chugging along guitar, especially in the first song, Hurricane. Just, it's so nice. It almost sounds like a part of the percussion. It's just that tight, that tuned in, that just the whole band is like that throughout the entire album. So it makes it for a great listen. So where am I getting to the but? It's coming up right here. But the lyrics. Lyrics are pretty dumb, pretty dumbed down stuff. Pretty generic kind of 80s rock stuff. Like the first song, like I said, is called Hurricane. I'm a hurricane! You can't catch me! You know, that's about as cerebral as it gets. There's stuff on here that can be forgiven because, like, I'm a hurricane, you can't catch me. You know, they're a rock band, they're rocking out, they got lyrics like that. They got song titles like Street Fighter, and the second track on here, Can't Get Enough of the Fun. That's just really awkwardly written. I can't get enough of the fun. I can get enough of those lyrics. So yeah, not 5 stars. I'm gonna bring it down to 4 stars because the music on here is exactly in my lane. It's that, like I said, that great 70s kind of hard rock, full-on guitar assault. You know, just the guitar is sounding almost like percussion. The band is so tight. Love it. And it's Shrapnel Records. So these guys' album before this one was called Wild Dogs. Now, if you heard some of my other Shrapnel Records reviews, you know that for some reason, whoever is running this company or in charge of like album naming or band naming, they're all about dogs, especially Wild Dogs. Not to be confused, you know, they had the album Wild Dogs before this, which is not to be confused with the album Wild Dogs by the band Wild Dogs that came out earlier this year that I talked about, or the White Dogs, or the Mangy Dogs, or whatever kind of dogs are still yet to come. So yeah, there's the funniest part on here with the lyrics is there's a song called Hot Love. That's followed up by Hot City. You got 2 hots in a row. It's kind of separated. I mean, technically, I mean, they are, you know, there's a side break in between those if you're listening to this on a record or a cassette. But, you know, hot love, I'm looking for some hot love, you know. Are you? Is that what you're looking for? You're looking for some hot love. You're looking for a nice hug and a kiss. Maybe a nice woman that you can settle down with, get married, raise a family. Maybe buy a Valentine's Day gift for every year. Celebrate your anniversary. You're looking for some hot love. I don't think hot love is probably what you're looking for. So yeah, in a hot city, you know, and a hot night on the town, you know, is the last track, which has a riff that kind of sort of sounds, you know, speaking of Ronnie James Dio, kind of sounds like a little bit like Man on the Silver Mountain. So it's that kind of riffing going on. I would definitely recommend this if you're into big, thick power chords and just, you know, just the kind of thing you cruise down in the Trans Am with one hand on the top of the wheel. You like that kind of thing. You definitely want to check out the rods. Just, the vocals are okay, but just overlook some of those really kind of elementary lyrics. All right, I've been talking about all these albums from 1983. Here we are at the end of July, and it's the moment I know you've been waiting for. Time to talk about an album from Gordon Lightfoot. Yes, he had an album out in July of 1983. It was called Salute. And, you know, Gordon Lightfoot, I've never really been a huge fan of his. I don't really care a lot about his voice. I did see a documentary about him. I think it came out right after he passed away, and you know, he seemed like a nice guy, seemed like a reasonable person, down to earth, somebody you'd like to hang out with, maybe get some insight from or something like that. But as far as his music, I've been really kind of lukewarm on it. I only have ever heard one Gordon Lightfoot album. I only have one Gordon Lightfoot album. It's this one, pretty much, I guess, the big one with If You Could Read My Mind, because it's called If You Could Read My Mind. It actually had a different name before that. This is the later issue of this. But yeah, so I don't really know a lot of Gordon Lightfoot album tracks. You know, the If You Could Read My Mind. Sundown, you better take care. You know, that one. And the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. You know, he comes from Toronto, but he sings like he's doing like a brogue, like he's doing Irish folk songs or something. I don't know what his, you know, background. I know he's from Toronto, but I don't know what his background, for like his family heritage is or whatever. But, so yeah, here we are with the album called Salute. And this is way past Gordon Lightfoot's prime. He's like a man out of his element here. He's 1983. What are you trying to do here? So he does a decent job of moving along with the times. He's not trying to go new wave or anything like that. He's basically going, to me, what more sounds like a country, like a really contemporary for 1983 country sound. Like, you know, not with like steel guitars and rhinestones. That I'm talking like contemporary 1983 country. Like some of these could have been hits, especially the first 2 songs. You know, upbeat, and, you know, he's got his voice on there and that and whatever. And some of it sounds a little more adult contemporary. He's actually got a little bit of electric guitar on some of the songs, and they're moving along pretty steadily. So I mean, he's moving along with the times. It's not cringy. It does work in some places. Well-produced album. Sounds, the sound quality's great. He doesn't completely abandon the folksy kind of, I'm Gordon Lightfoot, I'm going to sing like this. He does that on Whispers of the North. Another song called Knotty Pine, all about a tree. So that's on there. But songs like Gotta Get Away and, Without You and whatever, those ride that line between like kind of current for the 80s country and adult contemporary, whatever. Nothing sounds really like pop or anything like that. Like I said, there's definitely no, I'm going to try to be new wave or whatever, so that's good. It's just really his voice that makes me not want to like this a lot. I'm kind of like, okay, come on. It's his voice. He definitely has his own style of singing. Like I said, it's that Harrison, a naughty pine tree and the forest and the birds and the giraffes, whatever. And when a lot of the people who have voices that are very distinct and they have a definite, effect on their voice, and they've got their own style, their own brand of cadence of singing. They get popular. And then a few years go by, they get a little more confident with that sound. They get a little more confident, and by the time, a few years have passed, they start sounding almost like a parody of themselves. It sounds like somebody trying to do a Gordon Lightfoot, and that's kind of where he is now. It's almost cartoonish, at this point with his voice. I mean, that's happened to other vocalists. I talk about that, in my 90s series about Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins. The same thing happens to him. He gets more confident with that particular style of singing that he did on Gish and Siamese Dream. And so by the time the later albums come along, he's a full-blown self-parody. It's just this wretched... I'm not going to do it because I don't want to scare your cats, because I get a lot of you scared my cat when you did that, but you know what I'm saying. That screeching kind of... he's full-blown obnoxious. There's no turning back kind of thing. And so Gordon Lightfoot is at that point here. He's not obnoxious, but it's just... is becoming cartoonish. So I can't really give this a very high rating for me. I'm going to give this 2 stars. Give it 3 if you really like Gordon Lightfoot. Like I said, it's not horrible, but it's just not my thing with his voice like that. So I'm going to give it 2 stars. I probably would give it 2.5, but I'm not doing half stars. But yeah, Gordon Lightfoot, and salute! I'm just going to, if I ever need to hear some Gordon Lightfoot, I'll just stick with, if you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts would tell. Ghost in the wishing... Okay, that's enough. And that is enough for this video. In the next video, I'm going to talk about albums from Elvis Costello, Rick James, Billy Joel, Jackson Browne, and a lot more, so hopefully you'll join me for that. And just a reminder for the 1983 Deep Dive, not doing any kind of live albums, no compilations, no EPs, no country, no jazz, but pretty much every other album that came out that year. So yeah, we are continuing this long journey chronologically, rating and reviewing albums from 1983. It's been a lot of fun so far, and thank you so much for joining me on this. I'm Robert Fifth, and hopefully I will talk to you again next time.